Howdy, howdy, howdy. My name's Anashi Sasuke. Welcome back to the Warhammer 40K Wiki. We're still reading it on Fandom, and I'm using Opera for that because the ads on Fandom are terrible. And if anybody knows a different Warhammer Wiki I can read that's not this website, please let me know. So I don't gotta deal with all this. But anyway, the last time I did one of these, I said I was either going to do the Horus Heresy next or the Crusades. And both of those are probably super interesting, but the reason I'm reading the wiki is because I want to try to get into maybe sort of kind of playing the Warhammer 40k game since 10th edition is supposed to be easier. And other than the Necrons, which have just been kind of chasing me for the last year or so, the other faction I'm interested in is the Adepta Sororitas, or Sororitas? It looks like it has more syllables than I'm saying, but I'm not sure. Because, like, I guess I could just say Sisters of Battle and stop hurting myself. But I'm interested to learn more about them than what I've got so far, which is just, like, one YouTube video by the Warhammer video person whose name escapes me, but y'all should know exactly who I'm talking about. And also, like, one song from String Storm. But anyway, that's enough blah 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 blah. Time to actually read the thing. Alright, so the Emperors also I'm not gonna be singing nothing. Like if the wiki expects me to do any singing, we're not gonna do that. Because if there's one thing I've learned about the Sisters of Battle in the last like 70 hours, it's that singing is involved and some people don't like that. Alright. The Emperor is our father and our guardian, but we must also guard the Emperor. It's it hasn't even been 2 minutes yet. I'm not gonna make a skeleton emperor joke. Teachings of the Adepta Sororitas. The Adeptus Sororitas, colloquially called the Sisterhood, whose military arm is also known as the Sisters of Battle and formerly as the Daughters of the Emperor, are an all-female division of the Imperium of Man's state church known as the Ecclesiarchy, or more formally as the Adeptus Ministorum. How come that's an Adeptus, but they're an Adepta? There's probably a reason. It might be the same reason that I think of certain monsters from Monster Hunter as women because of their names ending with a, and that's because forced Spanish class. The Sisterhood's orders militant serve as the Ecclesiarchy's armed forces, mercilessly rooting out spiritual corruption and heresy within humanity and every organization of the Adeptus Terra. There is naturally some overlap between the duties of the Sisterhood and the Imperial Inquisition. For this reason, although the Inquisition and the Sisterhood remain entirely separate organizations, good. The Orders Militant of the Adeptus Sororitas also act as the Chamber Militant of the Inquisition's Ordo Hereticus? Hereticus? There we go. This. uh, my friend who knows more about Warhammer than me is in the background, so if you hear random other stuff, that's him. Because, like, I know I'm going to say some stuff that's stupid, sometimes on purpose. The the Adeptus Sororitas and the Sisters of Battle, I guess I can't say them separately now, are commonly regarded as the same organization, but the latter title technically refers to only the orders militant of the Adeptus Sororitas. Sororitas. I'm just going to keep saying it messed up, because if I keep trying to correct myself to this nonsense, it's going to slow me down, even more than my random inputs. The best known part of the organization to the Imperial public. The Sisterhood serves as the Ministorum's only official military force because of the decree passive laid down by the reformist ecclesiarch Sebastian Thor held that in the wake of the Age of Apostasy's reign of blood in the 36th millennium, the ecclesiarchy cannot maintain any men under arms. I would like to point out that the amount of hyperlinks in this one paragraph, if you can even call it a paragraph, because I'm pretty sure it's actually one sentence, the amount of hyperlinks in this one sentence is why I've decided to just skip to the things I care about instead of trying to do it in order, because what is this? This command was supposed to limit the power of the ecclesiarchy by preventing it from maintaining the massive armies of the faithful Fraterus Templar it once used to abuse its power from the 32nd to the 36th millennia. However, the Adeptus Ministorum has been able to circumvent this decree with the subtle acquiescence of the Inquisition by deploying the all-female military force of the Sisterhood's Orders Militant. So basically, we made a rule so that there's not going to be any militaries, but we're ignoring it because these are women and not men. They took the Witch King of Agmar route. Or wherever that he's the Witch King of. So we got the whole thing, and I've determined that around down here is when it stops being article and starts being fandom nonsense. So we don't got to read the whole thing, but it's still gonna take a while. Why is there a review for 40K Darktide here? Are the sisters in that game? I've not heard anything about them being in that game. I'll have to look into that on my own time. So, history. The Adepta Sororitas, also known as the Sisters of Battle, even though y'all just said those are two different things, are an elite sisterhood of warriors raised from infancy to adore and worship the Emperor of Mankind. Their fanatical devotion and unwavering spiritual purity is a bulwark against corruption, heresy, and alien attack. It's weird to say alien instead of Xenos, and once battle has been joined, they will stop at nothing until their enemies are utterly crushed. Battle Sisters will stride through fire if need be, their bolters spitting a staccato burst of destruction every step of the way. Are y'all just going to be using musical terms for the way they shoot people for like the rest of the article, or is that just that one? Not even death can stay the wrath of the Adepta Sororitas. Indeed, the blood of martyrs only strengthens the resolve of Battle Sisters, spurring them to greater acts of heroism in the name of the honored fallen. Sisters of Battle fighting against the foes of the Emperor. And what foes might those be? Well, everything that's not humans are foes of the Emperor, so I guess it doesn't really matter what they're fighting, because it's on fire either way. The Adeptus Ministorum, or the Ecclesiarchy as it is generally known in the Imperium, is a monolithic state church founded on the worship of the God Emperor as the savior of mankind and the preaching of the Imperial Creed throughout the whole galaxy. The Sisters of Battle are the army of the Archy? Yeah. Clad in ceramite power armor, which also is two different hyperlinks, they carry an awesome array of weaponry with which to vanquish their enemies. The incredible wealth of the Ecclesiarchy ensures they are equipped with the best war gear the Imperium has to offer. The Sisters of Battle are trained to the peak of human ability and stand amongst mankind's most dedicated and disciplined warriors. Wherever there are foes of the Emperor, the Sisters of Battle will be found fighting with faith and steel and guns. When not actively prosecuting the Ecclesiarchy's wars, the Battle Sisters of the Order's militant divide their time between rigorous training and devout worship of the God Emperor. How many different ways are you going to refer to them and claim it's one thing even though you started this article by saying it's not one thing?
Loopholes, my man. Loopholes.
Indeed, to the Adepta Sororitas, the disciplines are nigh inseparable, for whilst combat drills and studies of battle tactics can hone the body and the mind, only penitent prayer can bolster the spirit, and all three are required to defeat the Imperium's foes. So I guess Batman can't defeat the Imperium's foes because he's only got the two. The combination of combat doctrine and prayer is most evident on the battlefield, where Battle Sisters loudly proclaim their faith in hymn and verse as they march to war, calling upon the Emperor to aid them in the fight against their enemies. The intense, unquestioning nature of this faith is a potent weapon indeed, manifesting as divine inspiration that drives the Sororitas to unprecedented feats of martial prowess. It's a good thing people don't watch my channel for these, because I know I would be getting, like, ripped apart for not pronouncing that the right way, but Sisters of Battle grouped with holy fervor banish worldly fears from their minds, shrug off mortal wounds, and summon preternatural strength to smite their foes. The Sisters of Battle believe their faith to be a weapon stronger than any steel, and those who witness their battlefield miracles are left in no doubt that the spirit of the Emperor indeed walks with these pious warriors. Once the battle has been joined, the Adepta Sororitas will stop at nothing until their enemies are utterly crushed. Now I need to know what the orcs think of the Sisters of Battle. I really want to know how they feel about that. And I don't think this article is going to tell me. That's also something I'm probably going to have to look up on my own time. The Age of Apostasy. Oh yeah, that other thing I was supposed to look up and haven't actually looked it up properly. Because as you can see, it has its own hyperlink, and I didn't go to that one. Blackest of ages, saddest of times, let none give name to he that laid us low. The Chant of Days. Scrivener Obis Mach. Sounds vaguely familiar. The Adepta Sororitas date their founding from the 36th millennium during the turbulent times known as the Age of Apostasy. Really feels like there should be a C in that word somewhere, but I'm not sure why. During this age, the Ecclesiarchy held nigh total power, which it used to ensure that every single subject of the Emperor and the Imperium paid their dues, both spiritually and financially, to the duly appointed officers of the faith. In time, the Ministorum exercised such power that it began to dictate the policies of the ruling Senatorum Imperialis of the High Lords of Terror. So what you're saying is that in the 36th millennium, it was the Catholic Church. Might still be, actually. Sounds similar. The ecclesiarch came to be viewed as speaking with the authority of the Emperor himself, and he influenced every aspect of the governance of the Imperium. Perhaps it was inevitable that the other great bureaucracies, it's not a hard word to say, but God, is it a hard word to look at, of the Imperium should grow resentful of the Ministorum. The Adeptus Administratum, in particular, found its own powers greatly curtailed, for the Ministorum's tithes took precedence over its own raising of funds and resources, leaving little in the coffers to pay for the running of the secular components of the Imperium. The Administratum's political influence soon waned so far that the Ministorum was able to dictate policy in secular matters as well. The raising and deployment of armies, the prosecution of wars, the commitment of significant imperial resources, and the appointment of sector lords all fell under the effective control of the Ministorum. In time, other institutions began to distrust the Ministorum's power, and the Adeptus Astartes and the Adeptus Mechanicus in particular became increasingly estranged from the Ministorum-dominated imperial government. I was under the impression that the Mechanicus was just vibing on Mars and didn't really give a crap what was happening everywhere else, but I guess it makes sense. As if the situation could not get any worse, the entire Imperium was soon plunged into even deeper despair. The incidence of warp storms, a phenomenon that cut off vast swaths of the Imperium's space from interstellar travel and communication, increased by an order of magnitude. It's almost like a billion humans being driven into fanatical worship of a skeleton on a chair would fuel the psychic demons or something. I don't know. Seems far-fetched. The warp began to seethe with rolling energies which bled forth into the real space. Not the just real space, it's also its own hyperlink. Making travel between anything other than worlds in the same planetary system increasingly perilous. Okay, so it's not impossible, it would just be dumb. Okay, I thought it was impossible. Nah, it's just dumb. Central governance of worlds limited to periodic contact at the best of times entirely collapsed. Where the black ships of the Adeptus Astra Telepathica were unable to get through, entire populations fell to demonic incursion or enslaver domination. Which kind of sounds like what happened in those last two Dune books that I don't want to read because they feel stupid. Civil war and anarchy beset the Imperium, with those planets that remained accessible being ruthlessly suppressed by the increasingly brutal Praetorius Templars. I don't even have to make a Spanish Inquisition joke because it's literally that! Seeing that their foes were tearing themselves apart, the myriad enemies of humanity struck. The Traitor Legion sallied forth from the Eye of Terror, using their own blasphemous sorceries to strike planets otherwise cut off from outside aid. Orcs traversed the warp in their ramshackle space hulks, uncaring where the ties of the Imperium regurgitated them and wreaking havoc in regions previously beyond their reach. The Drukhari used their webway to freely navigate the galaxy and struck wherever they desired, dragging millions of captives screaming to their infernal realm of Kamarog to suffer tortures and degradations beyond a sane man's imagination. There's no sane men in the Imperium. What are you talking about? The entire Imperium was gripped by an apocalyptic frenzy of doom and anarchy. Countless new sects sprung into being, many proclaiming that the God Emperor was enacting his final judgment upon mankind, and that the end times were at hand. No world was untouched by the anarchy, as whole populations rose up in increasingly bizarre and extravagant acts of penance and self-flagellation. Anyone who dared attempt to reason with such doomsayers were declared heretics, and world after world tore themselves apart in an orgy of bloodletting and violent penance. So, okay, that's a weird word to use for that. Onto this doom-laden stage stepped the insane Goj Vandire. It's probably not pronounced Goj, but I know just enough about Vandire to not really give a shit if I'm saying his name right. He doesn't deserve it. The 361st Master of the Administratum, a position he had attained by the ruthless application of bribes, threats, and outright assassination. See, one line down proved my point. A strident opponent of the Ministorum, Van Dyer had plotted against it for many standard years. Shortly before his ascension to the rank of High Lord, Van Dyer brought about the selection of a man of his own choosing to head the ecclesiarchy, ensuring that none could stand before his subsequent rise. As confidence in the new puppet ecclesiarch, Paulus III, plummeted due to his reputation for incompetence and venality, Goj Van Dyer made his move, taking control of the ecclesiarchy in a military coup d'etat that orchestrated by Astra Militarum. I'm not used to people saying the whole thing. I got used to it just being the word coup. I'm not going to go into why I've gotten used to the word coup. Don't worry about it. Officers under his control who simply executed Paulus III outright, claiming that his behavior proved that he was a heretic and made him unfit for his office. Van Dyer then used the support of various Ministratum cardinals he had bribed and otherwise brought under his influence to immediately call a conclave that selected him as the new ecclesiarch. If you were the one who appointed the last ecclesiarch, why didn't you just cut the middleman and do that anyway? Assuming the dual roles of ecclesiarch and master of the administratum to become the most powerful person in the Imperium of Man, Van Dyer succeeded ultimately only in driving the Imperium into the bitterest period of civil war and rebellion it had known since the Horus Heresy, remembered as the Reign of Blood. And then we get back to the Sisters of Battle, which this whole article is supposed to be about, but alright. Gotta have that set up with all them bajillion hyperlinks that mean nothing if you don't click them. Except for the Horus Heresy. I'm pretty sure anyone who has a passing knowledge of Warhammer 40k knows what that is. It's got like 40-something books. Daughters of the Emperor. Early in his tyrannical rule, Van Dyer's agent sent him word of a unique sisterhood of warrior women living on the little-known agri-world of San Lior. Hearing of their ascetic way of life, their utter dedication to the Emperor, and in particular their skill at arms, Van Dyer decided he would make a formal visit to the secluded covenant of the Daughters of the Emperor. Before I continue, because like I said, I have a little bit of knowledge about Van Dyer, I just want to say, the balls on this man to know there's a world made up of nothing but battle women who worship the Emperor, and this man said, I'm going to go to that planet and make them shadow worship me instead. I don't know how he thought that was going to go, but it didn't. The first that the inhabitants of San Lior knew about the state visit by the man who was the de facto lord of the Imperium was when several thousand of his retainers marched into their simple towns and demanded that they show the High Lord the utmost devotion on pain of death. I'm not sure which metal I have to say his balls are made of to ensure that they rusted from this, but that. Images of these vast processions were recorded by the spy lenses of hundreds of servo skulls and disseminated across every world in the Imperium not cut off by the raging warp storms. At some point I'm going to just have to check out this servo skulls thing, because the only thing I know about servo skulls is they're skulls and they fly around and sometimes they say things. The image of the High Lord Van Dyer being welcomed to San Lior became a staple of ecclesiarchy propaganda. When at last the vast cavalcade reached the gates of the convent in which the Daughters of the Emperor resided, Van Dyer found them barred and closed. No shit. The voice of the gatekeeper informed the High Lord that the Daughters of the Emperor recognized only the authority of the God Emperor himself. Get the fuck off our planet. And would open their gates to no man. Van Dyer's attendants cringed in anticipation of an explosion of rage. Yet uncharacteristically, the High Lord remained calm. Uncharacteristically, the High Lord remained calm? Cringed indeed. In a serene manner, Van Dyer told the gatekeeper that he would prove that he spoke with the authority of the Emperor himself if they would allow him to enter their convent with but a small bodyguard. Do you mean small like you have a bodyguard that comes up to your waist, or just there's more than one and that's just worded weird? The Daughters of the Emperor acceded to Van Dyer's request, and the High Lord and a small group of his retainers were led into the central courtyard. There, Van Dyer announced to the gathered sisters that he would prove that the Emperor's grace was upon him, and that should he lie, he would be slain. Slain. Why did I say slain? It's not a word. I don't think it's a word. That'd be a weird word to have, but English is a weird language, so who knows? Van Dyer brandished his rosarius. Is it like a rosary? And ordered one of his guards to shoot him. The man was dumbfounded and fearful of harming his master, but Van Dyer insisted, nah bro, do it, it's just a prank. Forcing his trembling hand to stillness, the guard aimed his laser gun. I've been told it's las. Straight at Vandire's heart and fired. Vandire was consumed in a blinding white light, and when the vision of the gathered witnesses had cleared, they saw that he stood unharmed before them. All in the courtyard went down upon their knees, and the daughters of the Emperor proclaimed their fealty to High Lord Vandire. I just want to say, I like how this guy went from, but I don't want to hurt my master, to aiming straight for the dude's heart. Like, if Vandire's plan had faltered at any point, his loyal follower would have just murdered the shit out of him, and it would have been glorious. Except for that follower. That follower will probably had a stroke on the spot. If humanity can even still have those. Keep reading. In truth, Vandire had tricked the sisters, gambling that they would never have seen the Rosarius. So I guess it's not a rosary, but it sounds like it. Y'all religious as crap, it could have been. It was the energy field projected by the generator within the ornate medallion that had turned the guard's shot, and not the protection of the Emperor. Well, I figured that much. I didn't think he was actually protected by the Emperor any more than Inarius is actually helping people. But I still think it would have been funny if that didn't work the way he thought it would and dude just dead. That'd have been fantastic. Unfortunately, it took a little bit longer than that. Nonetheless, the daughters of the Emperor promised themselves to serve their new master, and at his word, changed the name of their order to the Brides of the Emperor, which is weird. But, the sisters became Vandire's personal bodyguard, and their skill at arms was enhanced by training in the finest weapons and armor the High Lord could provide. The Brides of the Emperor would stand at Vandire's side wherever he went, and they were both his bodyguards and his executioners. Word of their dedication spread across the worlds of the Imperium, and none who entered the High Lord's presence would so much as look at him askance under the silent, watchful gaze of the Brides of the Emperor. I can only assume he renamed them to the Brides of the Emperor so that when it shortened to the Brides, everybody thought they were Vandire's brides. Because otherwise, that's just a weird decision to have made. The Terran Crusade. Oh, there's another one. Countless millions soon burned in the fires of Vandire's reign of blood. Blood does... I mean, I guess blood burns, but that's just a weird way to have said that. It was during this dark, forbidding time that a reformist sect known as the Confederation of Light emerged and denounced Vandire as a traitor! Capital T! Spin the six-spin stick. Led by the preacher Sebastian Thor, there's that guy's name again, the Confederation of Light spread its message of a church dedicated not to politics and the secular rule of the Imperium, but to the compassion and mercy of the Emperor, to a brutalized people only too ready to throw off the yoke of oppression. Pretty sure the Emperor said not to do church at all, but go off, I guess. An orator of supreme skill, Sebastian Thor swayed whole worlds to his cause, somehow, what with the warp storms, and turned the tide against Vandire. As Thor's crusades smashed aside those who remained loyal to the Ecclesiarch with Mjolnir, the Space Marines and the Adeptus Mechanicus, both of whom had remained largely on the defensive during the Age of Apostasy, were finally able to join forces with Thor and close on Terra. I feel like the Space Marines could have got through his Rosarius. As Vandire's madness had become all too apparent, the Fabricator General, Gustav Pediatrix of the Adeptus Mechanicus roused the Senatorum Imperialis to oust Vandire from power. Is this how people talked 40 years ago? I doubt it. Vandire's answer was to dissolve the Senatorium Imperialis and declare both the Mechanicus and the Adeptus Astartes heretics and traitors to the Imperium. Capital H, capital T, capital I. Madness. This affront made the Space Marines reconsider their neutrality towards Vandire and the Reign of Blood in general, and at the height of the Age of Apostasy, 378.M36, an elite Space Marine strike force composed of forces drawn from the Imperial Fists, and the Black Templars, and the Firehawks, and the Soul Drinkers, Hyperlink, and the forces of the Mechanicus, assaulted the renegade High Lord Gouge, Vandire's seat of power, the massive ecclesiarchal palace on Terra. The Space Marines, believing Vandire to only be protected by legions of zealous but ineffective Fraterus Templar troops, launched one of their trademark lightning drop pod assaults. However, also hyperlink, once on the ground, the Astartes found to their dismay that they had grossly underestimated the opposition. Facing them were a corps of superbly trained warrior women clad in power armor and wielding bolters, who fought with a passion remarkable even to their Astartes opponents and stood their ground to the last woman, fearless and fanatical in the belief that they were protecting the Emperor himself. I know that it says to the last woman, so even though the Astartes were like, this is more than we were expecting, y'all still dead though, moving on. The Space Marines' assault bogged down as they were pushed back with casualties, and their attackers were forced to resort to a long, grinding, and bloody siege of the ecclesiarchal palace complex, with the quarter neither asked for nor given. For solar months, Van Dyer's army withstood every assault. The madness only ended when Centurion Longinus of the Adeptus Custodes, the Praetorian Guard of the Emperor himself, sought out Alicia Dominica. I probably said it right the first time and my tongue is just stupid. And her most trusted companions, the leaders of Van Dyer's bodyguard. Longinus took them before the Golden Throne and the God Emperor, and though no written histories tell of what transpired there, it was evident that some great truth was passed to Dominica and her fellow warriors. When they emerged from the bowels of the Imperial Palace, they marched with barely controlled fury to Van Dyer's audience chamber. There, they found him in the midst of yet another insane tirade, pausing only to condemn him for his crimes against the Emperor. Reportedly, Van Dyer's final words were, "I don't have time to die, I'm too busy." Alicia Dominica drew her power sword, and beheaded the High Lord. It is said that at the moment of truth, Van Dyer's Rosarius, which had protected him upon San Lior, now failed him, its gleaming form cleaved in two by Alicia's blow. The reign of blood was over. I like how we have all these ridiculous names and this man got struck down by a lady named Alicia. With a power okay, I'm clicking that hyperlink. I need to know what the fuck this is. This is a long article for a power sword. A power sword is a power weapon that has been shaped into a sword of varying lengths and designs crafted from one of any number of different materials, though usually adamantium. When the cell is activated, often by touching a control located on the hilt, the blade is sheathed in a lethal corona of disruptive energy. This energy field allows the blade to carve through flesh, bone, and most forms of armor plate alike, making a power sword a highly effective close combat weapon. Are you trying to tell me that this is a sword made of Wolverine's claws wrapped in lightsaber? Holy shit, no wonder that man died. He died bad. Holy crap, it probably smelled like bacon that day. The reformation of the ecclesiarchy. Let the word of the Emperor be heard once more wherever men gather and look upwards unto the stars. Let them know that the Emperor looks back upon them from the Golden Throne, wherever in this benighted galaxy they might reside. Cardinal Blue. Alright. In the wake of Van Dyer's downfall, Sebastian Thor was declared the 292nd ecclesiarch, and the Imperium. Why is it hyperlinked again? And the Imperium began the long process of rebuilding. Perhaps the most sweeping of changes Thor instigated affected the military forces over which the Ministerium held sway. What remained of the Fraterus Templars was disbanded under the terms of the so-called Decree Passive, which forbade the Adeptus Ministerium from controlling any men under arms. Never again would the ecclesiarchy threaten the continued rule of the Administratum unless the lore changes. The brides, after resuming their original title of Daughters of the Emperor, were at a loss as to what their purpose should be after this event. Probably what it was before the crazy man showed up and was like, "Shield, shoot me!" And so the ecclesiarchy took the opportunity to recruit and indoctrinate them into the ranks of the Ministerium's military forces. Y'all ain't learned shit. Due to their all-female membership, the Daughters of the Emperor did not technically break the ban, and thus the ecclesiarchy was able to circumvent the decree passive strictures, even if the spirit of Thor's decree was rather blatantly disregarded. This newly formed military force was renamed the Orders Militant of the Adepta Sororitas, or Sororitas. The sisterhood became true defenders of the faith and a very physical reminder of the power of the ecclesiarchy. Trained to the highest levels possible for normal humans and possessed of a phenomenal faith in the God Emperor of mankind, the sisters would go on to engage in wars of faith, which I'm pretty sure are still just crusades, bringing the light of the Emperor to parts of the galaxy that had fallen into darkness. During the first years of the Sisterhood's existence, Alicia Dominica, who founded the Order's militant at Thor's behest, led wars of faith against the alien invaders that had exploited the Imperium's weakness during the Reign of Blood. Sylvana, Mina, Lucia, Catherine, and Arabella, those sisters who had joined her before the Golden Throne, accompanied Dominica. Under their combined leadership, the Sororitas were filled with a righteousness of purpose that the Imperium had not witnessed since the legendary days of the Great Crusade. I told you. Countless enemies fell as the armies of the Sororitas brought the divine judgment of the Ecclesiarchy to the farthest corners of the galaxy, and to this day, the Sisters of Battle have stood as faithful and loyal defenders of the Ecclesiarchy and the Imperium. So what were they doing before the Ecclesiarchy found out there was a planet full of people that were, like, worshipping the Emperor specifically to fight in his name? What were the Sisters doing before that? Were they just vibing and waiting? I'm pretty sure that Dune is older than Warhammer, so this could very well just be more... This could just be Dune references, actually. Anyway, the Convocation of Nephilim. During Thor's Reformation, another organization came into being at the end of the Age of Apostasy, the Ordo Hereticus. Formed initially by the Inquisition to ensure that such a calamity as the Age of Apostasy could never again befall the Imperium, its remit soon expanded to cover not just doctrinal heresy against the Imperial Creed, but genetic and psychic divulgence from baseline humanity among the Imperial population as well. But doesn't humanity not really have any control over that happening? You trying to tell me that they were like, hey, we're here to make sure that stuff like Vandire doesn't happen anymore, but if you so much as almost diverge genetically away from what humans are supposed to be, we coming for you. But, sire, I don't even know what psychic is! Too bad! That's how that sounds. But, soon after the formation of the Order's militant, the Masters of the Ordo Hereticus and the highest ranked sisters of the Adepta Sororitas signed the Convocation of Nephilim, a document that bound the sisterhood to the Ordo Hereticus as its chamber militant. The exact details of this agreement have never been revealed, but some believe it to be linked to the knowledge imparted to Alicia Dominica and her companions before the Golden Throne. That such knowledge could be so dire as to bind the two organizations so formally is a testament to the weight of the tasks with which the Adepta Sororitas and the Ordo Hereticus are burdened. So was the Ordo Hereticus also told something, or are they just kind of rolling with the sisters know things that they can't ever know? Also, I wonder what the Emperor told the sisters that they're actually just rolling with this, because I would think the last thing they would want would be to go work for the Ecclesiarchy again. But others believe that the convocation was intended to curb the power of the Ecclesiarchy, exploiting the fact that the Sororitas are a loyal and zealous force that could be used to enforce the agendas of the newly formed Ordo, thus the Inquisition's willingness to turn a blind eye to the Ecclesiarchy's violation of the spirit of the decree passive. Whatever the truth, those who seek it without the blessing of the highest ranking members of either organization will find only a slow and painful death in the deepest excruciation chambers of the Ordo Hereticus, or a fiery yet equally painful death at the hands of the Order militant of the Adepta Sororitas. So basically, hey, why did those two people join together? I don't know. What do you think? I think there's a power sword through my chest for asking too many questions. Ah! Wars of faith. Wars plural. Just can't go without those crusades, huh? Can you, humanity? It's almost like you're not supposed to have religions or something. Let's see. The Reign of Blood, late M35 to early M36. Gouge Vandire engineers the ascension of the degenerate Ecclesiarch Paulus III, who then gets murdered. Shortly after, he topples him. See? Wait, so he put him up there, and then he toppled him. Again, if you were the one who had the power to instate Paulus III, why didn't you just instate yourself from the get-go? What was the point of all that? Vandire's Reign of Blood begins. Almost 14 billion are slaughtered by the Divine Army from the Purge of Lestrade. The daughters of the Emperor from Sandlior co-opted into becoming his personal bodyguard, and that was a bad move on his part, and are renamed the Brides of the Emperor. The Reign of Blood culminates in the siege of the Ecclesiarchy Palace, at the height of which Lord Vandire is executed by Alicia Dominica, the leader of the Brides of the Emperor. The Thorian Reformation. Sebastian Thor assumes the position of Ecclesiarch. The 4,000 or so surviving Brides of the Emperor became the daughters of the Emperor once more. They are divided between the two newly established convents, the Convent Prioris on Terra and the Convent Sanctorum on Ophelia the Seventh, or I guess Ophelia 7. Those sisters are still residing at those sisters still residing at San Lior are transported to the new convents, and the foundations of the non-militant orders are laid. In 288 of Millennium 36, the decree passive prohibits the ecclesiarchy maintaining standard armies of men under arms. They did a loophole. The martyrdom of Alicia Dominica, 650 to M36. I feel like this deserves more than, what, 2 sentences? I guess it's in the hyperlink of the lady herself. She falls at the Battle of Friedeswides? It's spelled like it's just Friedeswides, but it's probably not pronounced Friedeswides. Because otherwise, if you're trying to tell me Alicia Dominica, hero of the Imperium during the Dark Age that Van Dyer did, fell at the Battle of Friedeswides, it's probably not pronounced like that. Surviving hundreds of blows, but falling to a single traitor's lasgun blast at her heart. See? Lasgun shot to the heart. Everybody just, it sounds like if somebody's got a lasgun, they're aiming for the heart no matter what. Because that's twice in this article alone that it's just one shot to the heart with these things. If she had one of them rosariums, maybe she'd have been okay. She's declared a saint soon after. Ecclesiarch Equitus the 11th formalizes the position of abbess of the Adepta Sororitas and appoints Sister Palmiro of the Order of the Holy Word to the position. There's a lot of article left, but this really feels like you're just sweeping vastly over a lot of important things right now. The whole category is called Wars of Faith, and yet we've only just gotten there, and this is, I think, the 3rd time I've seen a hyperlink for it. But this one is in bold. During a century in which the power of the Ministorum reaches a peak not seen since the Reformation of St. Sebastian, 1,000 wars of faith are launched across the length and breadth of the Imperium, and billions of heretics are put to the pyre. Okay. Founding of the Order of the Bloody Rose and the Order of the Sacred Rose, mid-38th millennium. An additional 2 orders militant are formed by Order of Ecclesiarch Decus VI. The Order of the Bloody Rose is founded at the Convent Sanctorum in honor of Saint Mina. Guess we're just not going to talk about whatever happened to her. The Order of the Sacred Rose, founded in memory of Saint Arabella, the last of the 6 sisters to enter the throne room, is formed at Convent Priors. Or maybe nothing really bad happened and it's just the fact that it's been a couple thousand years. And as far as I know, not very many important people in the Imperium live that long, unless they were, like, specifically created by the Emperor, and then they just don't die unless they do. The San Lior Massacre? Oh no! And that happened in the 41st century, that's I guess recent lore. A Red Corsair strike force invades San Lior, the original homeworld of the Daughters of the Emperor. The Chaos Space Marines are unprepared for the fury of the Sororitas to reprisal as they come under assault from 9 separate orders militant and are utterly annihilated by the combined counterattack. So, they called it the San Lior Massacre as if it was the sisters. No, it was the sisters just taking the Chaos Space Marines down. Oh no, the history books say the San Lior Massacre. What happened to the sisters? They had to clean their swords for a few hours. Huh? Don't worry about it. No chaos here. The Battle of Fire and Blood, which happened like 40-ish years after that, during the Vinculus Crusade, Black Templar Space Marines chapter joined forces with the Order of the Bloody Rose to purge the heretical warrior cults of the that place. They did it. The War for Piety, which happened 2 years after that, the Shrine... This is a long hunk of words about that one. The Shrine World of Piety rematerializes after being swallowed by a warp storm 2 centuries earlier. What? The planet is, however, almost unrecognizable, having transformed into a hideous demon world. No shit! Canoness Soraya of the Order of the Sacred Rose immediately leads a force of battle sisters to the planet to retrieve artifacts from the Reliquary of Hope, one of the few sites on the whole world to have withstood the corrupting touch of chaos. I'm not using the webcam, but I just made one of the many doubt faces. As the rest of her forces establish a formidable perimeter around the reliquary, Soraya leads several Celestian and Dominion squads into the labyrinthine corridors beneath it. For 3 days, Canoness Soraya and her sisters battle through monster-infested passageways. Bolters cut down scores of blood-hungry demon hounds, and flamers burn swaths of nurglings and bloated plague beasts. Only Soraya and the 2 Celestians survived to rejoin the Battle Sisters on the surface, having recovered the left thigh bone of Saint Dolan, and 3 pages of the ominous lexicon of falsehoods from a stasis vault. The surviving Battle Sisters withdraw to orbit with their prizes just as a fleet of Grey Knights vessels arrives and lays waste to the planet with cyclonic torpedoes. What the fuck? Alright, so first off, we have so many Warhammer video games, and I know that a lot of them are terrible, and many more of them are just about the Ultramarines. Can we have a Warhammer game about that? I want to play a Warhammer video game where I get to play as the Battle Sisters, and so far all I have is waiting for the DLC from the Inquisition one. I want to play a Warhammer video game about the War for Piety, because this sounds like it would be hardcore. Like Space Marine levels hardcore. I want that. Nobody who matters can hear me saying I want that, but it stands. Like the people who could do it, they're not listening to me. If anyone from Games Workshop is watching these though, like, I don't know what to tell you, man. A lot of these people are stupid. Anyway, the defense of Dimimar. Doug Dimimar. Dimimar, birthworld of Sebastian Thor, comes under attack from the Eldar of Craftworld Ulthwe without any warning or apparent reason. I was about to say, why would they do that? But alright. Seraphim Superior Imelda of the Order of the Bloody Rose immediately retaliates, leading her squad of Seraphim in a daring attack to slay the enemy commander, Farseer Kaurith. Kurith? That's a weird layout of vowels. I don't know. The Seraphim's pistols blast a bloody path through a score of black-clad Eldar before the sisters are engulfed in a hurricane of psychic lightning. Though many of her companions fall, Imelda refuses to yield and defiantly advances through the Eldritch Storm, slaying the Eldar Farseer with a single bolt round to the head. Okay, I guess they don't always aim for the heart then. But it wasn't a las gun, it was a bolter. So I guess bolters to the head, las guns to the heart. Swords wherever they happen to fall. The Bloodtide Martyrs. Chaos comes to the Basilica of St. Mariel on the world of Van Horn in the shape of the Bloodthirster known as the Lord of the Bloodtide. The first to oppose the demon's legions are the Battle Sisters of the Order of the Ebon Chalice, but soon after battle is joined, all contact is lost with them. Dang. The demons are eventually vanquished with the arrival of the Fourth Brotherhood of Grey Knights. Upon their victory, contact with the Imperium is re-established, and it is discovered that every Battle Sister on the planet has been killed. The slain are officially elevated into the ranks of honored martyrs in the eyes of the Sisterhood. So what I'm getting from this so far, first off, is there's just a whole lot of shit being said with no explanation whatsoever, and there's hyperlinks in the weirdest places, like, we got hyperlinks for Nurglings, but not, like, what the Ebon Chalice is, or the Basilica of St. Mariel. I don't think I care about the Basilica of St. Mariel, but there's hyperlinks for things that are like, huh, interesting, and then not hyperlinks for things of, what is that? But I also am sensing that there's, like, it sounds like anywhere the Grey Knights go is to mop up whatever's left after the Sisters of Battle, and I can vibe with that, except for the, like, what was it, cyclonic torpedoes? I want a hyperlink on whatever the hell that is. I want to know what a cyclonic torpedo is. I doubt it's just a tornado. I doubt it's a torpedo that just spins all the way down. It's probably something horrific, but it sounds hilarious, and I need to know what it is. But you know what's not hilarious? The slaughter at Sanctuary 101. I mean, it might be. I don't know. At this point, who knows? What were you saying?
You were saying cyclonic, like with a C or a P?
With a C.
Okay. Never mind.
Like, it's not what they used to, like, do Exterminatus, is it? Because I would think it would have said Exterminatus.
There's a lot of things that you could exterminate, but I don't think that's one of them.
Okay. Let's see. The Slaughter at Sanctuary 101. On a world in the Vidar sector located in the eastern fringe of the galaxy, the Order of Our Martyred Lady, which I guess is Alicia? There seems to be a lot of martyrs. I don't know which martyred lady that is. It's got its own link, though. Had founded a fortress convent designated Sanctuary 101. The isolated convent had the misfortune of being the Imperium's first recorded contact with the Necrons. Well, it says first recorded. Where the Battle Sisters were massacred by Necron raiders. Video logs recorded a furious battle between the Valiant Sisterhood and the Necron warriors, but little of worth was displayed as there appears to have been an artificial disruption introduced into the recordings. Subsequent investigations into the site of battle revealed nothing more than the mutilated corpses of the Adepta Sororitas, eviscerated in a hideously surgical manner. No signs of the true nature of the Sanctuary 101's undying attackers were ever found. See, that's another thing that could have been an interesting video game. There's all this interesting stuff happening with the Sisters of Battle, and y'all aren't doing anything with it! Come on! The Battle of the Penitent. This is a lot of stuff happening in this one millennium. The orders of the Valorous Heart and Ebon Chalice suffer great losses against War Boss Black Axe's orcs and are pushed back to the walls of the Cathedral of St. Defu. I guess they came across the orcs after all. Why is War Boss and orcs hyperlinks but not Black Axe? Is he just not important? Is he going to get, like, kill murdered at the end of this? Let's see. The attackers are held back only due to the unyielding determination and sacrifice of hundreds of Sisters Repentia. However, their martyrdom buys time for the Black Sisters or Battle Sisters, excuse me. I missed all that. They could have said that. To open the vast cathedral gates. The green skins are slaughtered shortly thereafter as 24 penitent engines rampage across the battlefield, staining it with orc blood. What the hell is a penitent engine? I'm imagining Mad Max Fury Road, but with Battle Sisters.
You remember what you're
Oh god, it's those. Oh no.
Yeah.
No! Oh god. I'm sorry that the orcs had to see that. The Prometheum War. There's a lot of stuff happening in this one millennium. But down here it says 988, so maybe we're going to pass into 42. The Order of the... Oh god, the amount of hyperlinks in this one. The Order of the Ebon Chalice, that's 1. Reinforced Space Marines, that's 2. Of the Salamanders, that's 3. Who are engaged in a brutal urban war against the Dread Black Legion, that's 4. On the world of Helatine, the enemy puts to the torches dozens of immolators, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Land Raider Redeemers, that's 6. Burn a path through several war-torn cities. Despite the strength of their combined forces, the Imperium's advance is halted when Lord Growlistix, the Daemon Prince, that's 7. Leading the forces of chaos, that's 8. Unleashes a legion of possessed Chaos Space Marines, that's 9. As the frenzied Chaos horde rips through the Imperium ranks, Battle Sisters and Space Marines fight back to back, their bolters and flamers defiantly blazing away as every warrior endeavors to sell their life dearly. However, the Allied forces are saved when Saint Celestine, that's 10, appears, falling upon the Chaos horde like an avenging angel. The Living Saint, that's 11, carves a bloody path, same thing, through the baying horde towards the Lord Growlistix, before plunging her fiery blade through his tainted heart. With the death of Growlistix, the Chaos Horde is banished into the warp, but of Celestine there is no sign, for she has vanished as mysteriously as she appeared. So then who... What? Who the hell is Saint Celestine if she just popped up, murdered everybody, and just... Ooh. I was under the impression that she was just a battle sister who showed up and fought, but they're like, oh, she's gone. Did she go into the warp and keep killing, or she just...
She appeared out of nowhere, killed a bunch of people, and then disappeared.
Because I think when I was looking at whatever audiobooks I could get for free off of Audible, one of them was about her. And that's why I heard the thing about people not really liking singing, because it sounds like it was an audiobook about how she became a saint. So maybe I will get that one. The Martyrdom of Praxedes? Let's go with Praxeeds. Uh, Canonist Praxeeds of the Order of Our Martyred Lady reinforces the Imperial Guard on the cardinal world of Ocassis, soon after the start of the Second Tyrannic War. What happened in the first one? As the Tyranids of Hive Fleet Kraken assault the ecclesiarchal cathedral, good. The combined fire of Retributor squads and Exorcist tanks, that one is a hyperlink, obliterates the first wave, but the second manages to breach the cathedral's fortress walls. As Tyranids pour through, Praxeeds confronts a monstrous hive tyrant. Are those the really, really big ones? The ones that, like, they could pimp slap the alien queen? Okay. During the fighting, the Canonist is dealt a mortal wound, but even as her blood pours onto the floor, Praxedes summons the strength to land one final blow, caving in the Hive Skyren's tall skull with a thunderous strike from her power mace. With the tyrant's destruction, the Tyranid swarm loses all direction. The Battle Sisters waste in no time in pressing the assault, determined to avenge the death of their beloved leader. Such is the fury of their counterattack that the remaining aliens are swept aside, buying time needed to evacuate the Ecclesiarchy's priest from Ocassis. So I know that the Tyranids are a hive mind thing, so they don't really think when they're all split up. But I have to assume that when the thing powering their hive mind just took a mace to the head, they all probably felt that.
Yes. The thing with Tyranids is there's usually a relay creature,
right,
that leads individual groups. If you take out the relay creature, there's pretty much general static between the little bits of strike force, because they pretty much, you just cut off their huge hive mind from them, and they're scrambling to try and get another connection to something to just not be mindless beasts.
So, like, if you were to say that the Tyranids are running a radio station and the antenna gets toppled.
Yeah, pretty much.
So they would just all feel the antenna hit the ground before they start.
They start acting like animals. They're not very organized.
Interesting. The Third War for Armageddon. 99841. So we just missed making it into 42. And this one only has 2 hyperlinks in it. The orders of the Eight Argent Shroud and Our Martyred Lady stand amongst the Imperium's defenders as Grazkul Thraka invades the world of Armageddon once more. Why would you name your planet Armageddon and think that good things will happen there? In the initial Orc assault, the Battle Sisters' positions were attacked by large Orc submersibles, which emerged from the boiling sea. Caught unawares by the audaciousness and sheer ferocity of the Greenskins' attack, many of the Battle Sisters were slain. The Battle Sisters were the front line of defense for the Hive Tempestora, but their battle lines soon were overrun. This enabled the vile Greenskins to take control of the Hive city's Underhive within only a few hours. With each successive wave of Orc attacks, the Sisters were continuously pushed back, until finally they found themselves with their backs to the great armored doors of their Sanctorum. It was there that the Battle Sisters made their final heroic but futile stand against the encroaching Orc hordes. This day became one of the darkest within the Order's history as their battle lines crumpled and they were scattered. Those few Sisters that survived the final assault attempted to form their lines again, but were cut down by the massive green tide of Orcs. After an hour of savage fighting, no humans were left alive as the vile Orcs took Hive Tempestora and the Sanctorum. After this defeat, the Order could barely field 3 whole companies. The loss of their Sanctorum and the many valiant Sisters who had fallen was acutely felt throughout the rest of the Order. Many novices began questioning their faith in the Emperor. Those Battle Sisters that remained recovered quickly, swearing mighty oaths of vengeance against the foul Greenskins and vowing to retake Hive Tempestora, no matter the cost. But before they could do so, the surviving Sisters of the Order were spread across the rest of the planet to help solidify key Imperial positions. Their presence proved pivotal in preventing the Orcs from overrunning several areas of Armageddon. Well, dang. Also, I'm like not even halfway through this page yet. So I guess for the sake of simplicity, I will pause it here, and we will resume reading about the Sisters of Battle, or Adepta Sororitas, since those are two separate things, at Organization. So, this has been Anashi Sasuke. If you liked the video, a like and a subscribe would be groovy. If you didn't, you don't need to do either one of those things. If you want to click the bell, you can do that as well so that you're notified of future uploads. And the next one will be continuing with Organization, which I guess is just explaining how they're all broken up and how they work, since we got a whole bunch of historical battles and stuff. Really, I could have sworn that the lore was up to the 42nd millennium already, but I guess the sisters aren't, but everybody else is. Maybe they just haven't done anything in the 42nd century yet. All this happened like the last 2 years of it. But I will see y'all in the next one. Later.